The rain came down in cold sheets, turning the sidewalk into a mirror that reflected the warm golden lights of Martinez Bakery. Inside, families laughed over birthday cakes covered in perfect swirls of frosting. Children pressed their faces against glass cases filled with pastries that cost more than most people spent on groceries for a week. Outside, pressed against the brick wall beside the door, 9-year-old Kira Williams tried to make herself smaller. Her thin jacket, donated from some church clothing drive 3 winters ago, did nothing against the November chill. The holes in her sneakers let in water with every step. Her stomach had stopped growling hours ago, settling into a hollow ache she'd learned to ignore. Through the window, she watched a little girl about her age blow out candles on a 3-tier chocolate cake. The girl wore a clean pink dress with ribbons in her hair. Her parents kissed her cheeks while relatives clapped and sang. Kira looked down at her own reflection in a puddle. Matted brown curls, dirt smudged on her dark skin, clothes that hung loose on her skinny frame. Today was her birthday too. November 7th. She was 9 years old. Nobody had sung for her. There was no cake. Grandma Loretta had hugged her tight this morning at the shelter and whispered, "Happy birthday, baby girl," but that was all they could afford. Love and a hug. No cake. No candles. No wishes. Kira's fingers trembled as she pushed open the heavy bakery door. Warm air rushed out, carrying the smell of sugar and vanilla. It made her dizzy with hunger. The conversations inside dulled to a murmur as customers turned to look at the small, soaked girl dripping water onto their clean floor. Behind the counter, a tall woman with pulled-back hair and a white apron looked up from boxing a custom order. Her eyes narrowed. "Can I help you?" Kira's voice came out barely above a whisper. "Do you have any expired cake?" The woman's face hardened. "Excuse me?" "Any old cake," Kira said louder now, her words tumbling out in a rush. "From yesterday or the day before. Stuff nobody wants anymore. Stuff you're gonna throw away. It's my birthday and I just want it." Her voice cracked. "I just wanted a piece of cake." The woman crossed her arms. "We don't give away product. If you want something, you pay for it like everyone else." "I don't have money," Kira admitted, her cheeks burning with shame. "But I thought maybe the expired stuff, the trash stuff." "We don't have trash here. Everything is fresh, premium quality. Now if you're not buying anything, you need to leave. You're dripping all over my floor." Kira felt tears mixing with the rain on her face. She turned toward the door, her birthday wish dying in her throat. That's when she heard a different voice. Deep and tired but gentle. "Wait." A man stood from a corner table, setting down a coffee cup. He was tall, maybe 40 years old, with olive skin and dark hair touched with gray at the temples. He wore an expensive charcoal suit, perfectly tailored, and shoes that probably cost more than Grandma's monthly medicine. But his eyes looked sad. Really sad. Like he knew what it felt like to want something you couldn't have. Vincent Torres had been sitting in that bakery for 2 hours, nursing cold coffee and watching families celebrate. He came here sometimes when his penthouse felt too empty, when the silence got too loud. He watched other people's joy from a distance, like pressing his face against the glass of a life he used to have. 5 years ago he'd had a daughter. Isabella. She'd loved birthday cake, loved blowing out candles and making wishes. She'd been 7 when the drunk driver crossed the center line and took her and her mother from him in one terrible moment. 5 years of existing without living. 5 years of going through motions, building his company bigger and bigger, trying to fill the hole in his chest with money and success and long hours at the office. It never worked. And now here was this child, this small soaked girl asking for garbage cake on her birthday, and something inside Vincent cracked open. He walked toward Kira, his footsteps quiet on the tile. "Today is your birthday?" She nodded, not quite looking at him. "How old?" 9. Vincent's breath caught. Isabella would have been 12 now. Would have been. Those 2 words haunted him every single day. He turned to the woman behind the counter. "I'll take your largest birthday cake. The fancy one in the window with the flowers." The baker blinked. "Sir, that's a custom order for the Peterson anniversary party." "I'll pay double. Triple. Whatever it costs, and I'll pay for a replacement to be made for the Petersons." His voice was firm but not unkind. "This young lady needs a birthday cake." "Sir, I really can't." Vincent pulled out his wallet and placed $500 bills on the counter. The baker's eyes went wide. That cake cost $80. He was giving her over 6 times that amount. "Please," Vincent said quietly. "It's her birthday." The baker looked at the money, then at Kira's hopeful face, then back at the money. She swallowed hard and nodded. "I'll box it up." Kira's eyes filled with tears again, but these were different. "I can't, That's too much. I just wanted. You wanted cake on your birthday, Vincent said, crouching down to her level so they were eye to eye. That's not too much to ask. That's not too much at all. His eyes were kind, Kira thought. Sad but kind. Like Grandma's eyes when she talked about Mama and Daddy. What's your name? Vincent asked. Kira. I'm Vincent. He held out his hand and she shook it, her small fingers disappearing in his grip. Happy birthday, Kira. The baker returned with an enormous white box tied with gold ribbon. Inside was the most beautiful cake Kira had ever seen. 3 layers covered in pale blue frosting with delicate sugar flowers cascading down one side. Real flowers, not plastic. The kind of cake that belonged in magazines. Vincent took the box and handed it to Kira. It was heavy. She held it like treasure, like something that might disappear if she loosened her grip. Thank you, she whispered. Thank you so much. You're welcome. Vincent stood, but something in him couldn't let this moment end. Couldn't let this child walk back out into the rain with just a cake, back to wherever she'd come from. He'd spent 5 years drowning in his own pain, and for the first time since the accident he felt like maybe there was a reason he was still here. Maybe this was it. This moment. This choice. Kira, he said carefully. Have you eaten dinner? She shook her head. Would you let me buy you dinner? A real meal, not just cake. He saw her hesitation and added quickly, I promise I'm safe. We can go somewhere public, somewhere with lots of people. I'd like to make sure you have a proper birthday. Kira bit her lip. Grandma always warned her about strangers. But this man had kind eyes. And she was so hungry. And nobody had ever offered her something like this before. Okay, she said softly. But can we bring some food back for my grandma too? She's sick and she hasn't eaten either. Vincent felt that crack in his chest split wider. This child was starving and her first thought was feeding someone else. Of course, he said, his voice rough with emotion. We'll bring her a feast. How can you scroll past a child begging for expired cake without feeling something shift in your heart? If this story is already touching you, hit subscribe and drop a comment telling me what you would have done in Vincent's place. Your answer might surprise you. Vincent's car was the kind Kira had only seen in movies. Sleek and black with leather seats that were heated and smelled like money. She sat in the back, the cake box on her lap, afraid to touch anything. Rain drummed on the roof as Vincent drove through the city streets. There's a good restaurant 2 blocks from here, Vincent said, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. Italian. Do you like pasta? I like everything, Kira admitted. We eat at the shelter mostly. Soup and bread. Sometimes sandwiches. Vincent's hands tightened on the steering wheel. You live in a shelter? Me and Grandma. The Morrison Street shelter downtown. We've been there 8 months now, ever since. She paused. This part always hurt. Ever since we lost our apartment. Grandma got sick and couldn't work no more. Her diabetes got bad. The medicine cost too much and the rent was too high and then we just ran out of money. I'm sorry, Vincent said, and he meant it. What about your parents? They died 2 years ago. Car accident. Kira said it flat, the way she'd learned to say it so it wouldn't hurt as much. Drunk driver hit them on the highway. I was at Grandma's house that night. They were coming to pick me up and they never. She stopped, swallowing hard. Grandma's all I got now. Vincent pulled into a parking space and sat very still. His own wife and daughter taken the same way. Drunk driver. One moment of someone else's terrible choice and entire families destroyed. He understood this child's pain in a way most people couldn't. I lost my family that way too, he said quietly. My wife and my daughter. 5 years ago. Kira met his eyes in the mirror. Does it stop hurting? No, Vincent said honestly. But you learn to carry it. And some days are better than others. She nodded, understanding passing between them without more words needed. Inside the restaurant, the hostess looked at Kira's wet, dirty clothes with barely concealed disgust. Vincent's expression turned cold. Table for 2, please. Somewhere comfortable. Sir, perhaps the back. Front window is fine. His tone left no room for argument. And we'll need several takeout containers as well. They sat at a table with a white cloth and real flowers. Kira had never been somewhere this nice. Other diners whispered and stared. She wanted to disappear, but Vincent ordered like she belonged there. Pasta with chicken for her, soup, salad, breadsticks, a huge order of lasagna to go. Tell me about your grandma, Vincent said as they waited for food. What's her name? Loretta. Loretta Williams. Kira smiled for the first time, and Vincent saw how pretty she'd be if she wasn't so thin and tired. She's the best. She used to work at a hotel cleaning rooms. She worked real hard so my mama could go to college. She tells me stories about when mama was little. And she sings old songs, the kind her mama taught her. She says I got mama's smile. I bet you do. Vincent watched her tear into the breadsticks the waiter brought. She ate like someone who didn't know when the next meal would come. How bad is her diabetes? Pretty bad. She needs insulin, but it's so expensive. The clinic gives us some for free sometimes, but not always enough. Last week she passed out and the ambulance came. They gave her something that helped, but then we got a bill and Grandma cried. Kira's voice dropped. I hate seeing her cry. Vincent made a mental note to handle that bill. And the insulin. And whatever else this family needed. The food came, heaping plates of it, and Kira ate slowly, savoring every bite. She'd learned not to eat too fast or her stomach would hurt after being empty so long. Vincent barely touched his own meal. He couldn't stop thinking about this child's situation. 9 years old and dealing with loss, poverty, and adult worries no kid should carry. His phone buzzed. His assistant Roberto texting about tomorrow's board meeting. Vincent ignored it. For the first time in 5 years, work didn't matter. Only this moment mattered. Kira, he said carefully, I'd like to help you and your grandmother. More than just dinner. I have money more than I need, and I think. He paused, choosing words carefully. I think maybe I was supposed to hear you today. Maybe I was supposed to be in that bakery right then. Why? Kira asked. Why do you want to help us? You don't even know us. Because someone should have helped you already, Vincent said. Because you're a kid asking for expired cake on your birthday and that's not okay. Because your grandma is sick and can't afford medicine and that's not okay either. Because. His voice caught. Because my daughter would have been 12 now. And if she'd survived and I hadn't, I'd hope someone would help her the way I'm hoping to help you. Tears rolled down Kira's cheeks. I miss my mama and daddy so much. I know you do. Vincent reached across the table and gently squeezed her hand. But they'd be proud of how strong you're being. And they'd want you to accept help when someone offers it. Right. She nodded, wiping her eyes with a napkin. So let me help. Please. Let me bring food back to your grandma and make sure she has her medicine. Let me do something good for once instead of just. He gestured vaguely. Instead of just making money and being alone. Okay, Kira whispered. Okay, you can help. They packed up enough food to feed 10 people. Vincent added a grocery bag full of basics. Milk, eggs, bread, fruit, peanut butter. At a pharmacy next door, he bought 3 months' worth of insulin and diabetes supplies. The total cost was over $800. He didn't blink. As they loaded everything into his car, Kira said, Mr. Vincent? Can I ask you something? Just Vincent is fine. What? Are you lonely too? The question hit him harder than any business deal gone wrong, harder than any quarterly report. A 9-year-old child seeing straight through his expensive suits and fancy car to the truth underneath. Yes, he admitted. I'm very lonely. Grandma says when you're lonely you gotta look for people who need love. She says everybody needs love and when you give it away you get it back. Kira climbed into the back seat. Maybe helping us will make you less lonely. Vincent stood in the rain, letting her words sink in. Out of the mouths of children, his mother used to say. The wisdom that came from innocent hearts. Maybe it will, he said softly. Morrison Street Shelter sat in the old industrial district where warehouses slowly converted into expensive lofts while the poor got pushed further to the margins. The building was a converted factory, all brick and bad plumbing. Vincent parked on the street and helped Kira carry the food and supplies to the front entrance. Inside, the smell hit him first. Too many bodies in too small a space. Sweat and mildew and boiled vegetables. Rows of cots lined the main room, separated by thin curtains that gave the illusion of privacy. Families clustered in small spaces, children doing homework on the floor, adults staring at walls with exhausted eyes. Vincent had donated to homeless charities before. Big checks written from a distance, tax deductions that let him feel good without getting involved. He'd never actually been inside a shelter. Never seen what those checks were supposed to fix. It wasn't enough. He could see that immediately. Nothing was enough when people lived like this. Grandma's over here, Kira said, leading him through the maze of cots to a corner spot beside a radiator that clanked but produced no heat. She hasn't been feeling good today. Loretta Williams sat on a thin cot, wrapped in a donated blanket. She was maybe 65, maybe 70, her dark skin lined with years and worry. Her hair was mostly gray, pulled back in a neat bun despite everything. She wore a faded blue sweater and slacks that had seen better decades. But her eyes. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent and full of love when they landed on Kira. "Baby girl, you're soaking wet," Loretta said, struggling to stand. "Where have you been?" "I was worried sick." She stopped, seeing Vincent. Seeing the cake box, the bags of food, the pharmacy bag. Her expression shifted from relief to confusion to something harder. Pride, Vincent realized. The kind of pride that came from doing everything yourself, from never asking for help even when you desperately needed it. "Grandma, this is Vincent," Kira said quickly. "He heard me at the bakery and he bought me a birthday cake. The most beautiful cake ever. And dinner. And medicine for you. And look, Grandma, there's insulin. 3 months of insulin." Loretta's jaw tightened. "Baby, you can't accept all that from a stranger." "He's not a stranger anymore. He's my friend." Kira set the cake box carefully on the cot. "And Grandma, it's my birthday. Please don't make him take it back. Please." Vincent stepped forward, holding out his hand. "Mrs. Williams, I'm Vincent Torres. I promise I have no bad intentions. I just wanted to make sure your granddaughter had a proper birthday. And I wanted to help with your medicine. That's all." Loretta didn't take his hand immediately. She studied him, the way he stood, the way he looked at Kira, the quality of his suit, the sincerity in his eyes. Making calculations. Assessing threats. Protecting her girl the way she'd always protected her, even when she could barely protect herself. Finally, slowly, she shook his hand. "Loretta Williams. And I appreciate the kindness, Mr. Torres, but we can't accept charity." "It's not charity," Vincent said gently. "It's a birthday gift. For Kira. You wouldn't refuse your granddaughter a birthday gift, would you?" Loretta's eyes watered. "Today's her birthday. I couldn't even." Her voice broke. "I couldn't even get her a cupcake. Now she has cake," Vincent said. "And pasta. And you have insulin. Please, let me do this one good thing." The fight went out of Loretta's shoulders. She sagged back onto the cot, suddenly looking older and more tired. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much." Kira threw her arms around her grandmother, and they held each other tight while Vincent unpacked the food. Other shelter residents noticed and gathered around, drawn by the smell of restaurant takeout. "There's enough to share," Vincent said immediately, seeing their hungry eyes. "Please, everyone eat." And they did. Pasta and breadsticks got divided among 20 people. Children who'd been lying listlessly on cots perked up and smiled. Adults nodded thanks, too tired for words. The cake got cut into small slices so everyone could have a taste. Kira blew out the candles while the whole shelter sang happy birthday, their voices echoing off brick walls. She closed her eyes and made a wish. Vincent stood back and watched, something warm growing in his chest where the cold had lived for 5 years. This feeling. This was what he'd been missing. Purpose. Connection. Mattering to someone. After everyone ate, after the crowd dispersed and quiet returned, Loretta gestured for Vincent to sit on the cot beside her. Kira had curled up with her slice of cake, eating slowly, making it last. "Why are you really doing this?" Loretta asked quietly. "Rich man like you doesn't just wander into shelters handing out money unless there's a reason." Vincent could have lied. Could have made it about tax breaks or good press or some other surface reason. But Loretta's eyes demanded truth. "I lost my wife and daughter 5 years ago," he said. "Car accident. Drunk driver. Since then I've been." He searched for words. "I've been going through the motions. Making money. Building companies. But not living. Just existing. And today I heard your granddaughter ask for expired cake and something in me woke up. I needed to help. I needed to matter to someone again." Loretta nodded slowly. "Grief is a heavy thing to carry alone." "Yes, it is." "And you think helping us will ease that weight?" "I don't know," Vincent admitted. "But I'd like to try. If you'll let me." She was quiet for a long moment, watching Kira lick frosting off her fork, savoring every bite. Then Loretta said, "My granddaughter has been through more than any child should. Lost her parents. Lost her home. Sleeps in a shelter with strangers and never complains. She's the bravest person I know. And if you hurt her, if you disappoint her, if you make promises you don't keep." Her voice turned to steel. "Then I don't care how much money you have. I will make sure you regret it." "I won't hurt her," Vincent said. "I promise." Promises are easy. Following through is harder. "Then judge me by my actions, not my words." Loretta studied him again, then slowly nodded. "All right, Mr. Torres. You want to help? Then start by getting me more blankets. It's freezing in here and half these kids are getting sick." Vincent smiled. "I can do that." He left the shelter an hour later, after making sure Loretta took her insulin, after getting their sizes to buy them proper coats, after promising Kira he'd come back soon. As he drove home through rain that had finally stopped, Vincent pulled out his phone. "Roberto," he said when his assistant answered. "Cancel tomorrow's meetings. All of them. I need you to research the best diabetes doctors in the city, and contact a supplier for bulk blankets and winter coats, children's and adult sizes, and find out who runs the Morrison Street shelter. I want to talk to them about improvements." "Sir? Is everything all right?" Vincent looked at the empty passenger seat, remembering how Isabella used to sit there singing along to the radio. The memory didn't hurt quite as sharp tonight. "Everything's fine," he said. "Actually, Roberto, I think everything might finally be okay." Vincent didn't sleep that night. He lay in his king-sized bed in his penthouse that overlooked the city, staring at the ceiling, thinking about a 9-year-old girl sleeping on a cot in a shelter that smelled like mildew. Thinking about a grandmother who couldn't afford medicine. Thinking about how much food had been in his refrigerator, untouched, while families went hungry 3 miles away. The distance between his world and theirs was geography. Just 3 miles. But it felt like different planets. At 6 in the morning he got up and started making calls. By 8 he had appointments scheduled with 3 top endocrinologists for Loretta. By 9 he had a delivery service bringing blankets, pillows, space heaters and winter coats to Morrison Street. By 10 he was in his car driving back to the shelter, unable to stay away. He told himself he was just checking on his donations, making sure the supplies arrived properly. But the truth was simpler. He wanted to see Kira again. Wanted to see Loretta. Wanted to feel that warmth in his chest that came from matching. The shelter looked different in daylight. Worse somehow. The brick was crumbling in places. Windows were covered with cardboard. The entrance door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside, children ran around while parents tried to find ways to occupy long, empty days. There were no programs here, no activities, just survival. Vincent found Loretta in the same corner spot, helping a young mother change her baby's diaper. She looked up as he approached, surprise crossing her face. "Mr. Torres. Didn't expect to see you back so soon." "I brought supplies," Vincent said. "Blankets and coats and heaters. They should be here within the hour." "That's generous of you. Where's Kira?" "School. I make sure she goes every day no matter what. Education is the only way out of this." Loretta finished with the baby and handed him back to his mother. "You didn't have to come yourself. Could have just sent the stuff. I wanted to make sure you were okay. That you took your insulin this morning." Loretta's expression softened slightly. "I did. Thank you for that. I already feel better than I have in weeks." Vincent sat on the edge of her cot. "Mrs. Williams, I made some calls this morning. I have 3 doctors willing to see you, specialists in diabetes. The best in the city. I'd like to take you to appointments, get you fully evaluated, make sure you're getting proper treatment." "No." Her voice was firm. Vincent blinked. "No. I appreciate what you did for Kira's birthday. I appreciate the insulin. But I can't let you pay for doctors. That's too much." "It's not too much if it keeps you healthy. I've been managing my condition for 10 years. I know what I'm doing." "With all respect, Mrs. Williams, passing out from low blood sugar isn't managing." Vincent kept his voice gentle but direct. "Kira needs you. She's already lost her parents. She can't lose you too." Loretta's jaw worked, emotions playing across her face. Pride. Fear. Exhaustion. "I don't have any way to pay you back. I'm not asking you to. But why would you do all this? You don't even know us." Vincent looked around the shelter, at the families struggling, at the conditions that shouldn't exist in a city as wealthy as this one. "Maybe I'm starting to realize that having money means nothing if you don't use it to help people who need it. Maybe your granddaughter taught me something yesterday. Maybe." He met Loretta's eyes. "Maybe I need you and Kira as much as you need me." Before Loretta could respond, there was commotion at the front entrance. Vincent's delivery had arrived. 20 space heaters, 100 thick blankets, 50 winter coats ranging from toddler to adult sizes, and boxes of pillows still in plastic. The shelter erupted in grateful chaos. Parents grabbed coats for their children. People fought politely over blankets. Someone plugged in a heater and everyone nearby sighed with relief as warmth finally flowed into the space. The shelter director, a frazzled woman named Barbara, found Vincent in the crowd. "Are you the donor? Mr. Torres?" "Yes." "I don't know what to say. Thank you doesn't seem like enough." "It's a start," Vincent said. "But this place needs more than blankets. The building is falling apart. You need repairs, better plumbing, working heat, activities for the kids." "I know," Barbara said, exhausted. But the city funding barely covers basics. We're always one inspection away from shutting down. What if you had a private donor? Someone who could cover improvements. Barbara laughed bitterly. That would be a miracle. But miracles don't happen to places like this. Vincent pulled out his phone and opened his banking app. What's the shelter's account information? I'm sorry? Your bank account. For donations. What is it? Barbara gave him the numbers, confused. Vincent typed quickly and hit send. Barbara's phone buzzed. She looked at the notification and her face went white. Is this real? Did you just... That says $50,000. Consider it a start, Vincent said. Fix the heat first. Then the plumbing. Then see about hiring some staff to run programs for the kids. I'll send more as needed. Barbara's eyes filled with tears. Why? Why are you doing this? Vincent thought about yesterday, about a small girl asking for expired cake. About the moment his heart started beating again after 5 years of barely functioning. Because someone needs to, he said simply. He stayed at the shelter all day, helping distribute coats, setting up heaters, talking to families. He learned names. Heard stories. Met a single father with 3 kids who'd lost his job and apartment in the same week. Met a woman fleeing abuse with her 2 daughters. Met a veteran who couldn't find work despite his service. All of them were just trying to survive. All of them deserved better. Kira came back from school around 3, her face lighting up when she saw Vincent. You came back. I said I would. She threw her arms around him in a hug that nearly knocked him over. Vincent hugged her back, surprised by the lump in his throat. This child. This brave, beautiful child who'd somehow opened his heart again. Mr. Vincent, Kira said, pulling back. Can you help me with my homework? I got math problems I don't understand. They sat together on Loretta's cot while Vincent helped her work through fractions. He was patient, explaining concepts different ways until they clicked. Other children noticed and gathered around, asking questions, seeking help. Soon Vincent had 5 kids around him, all working on homework together. Loretta watched from across the room, her expression unreadable. When the children finally dispersed, she came over and sat beside him. You're good with kids, she said. I had a daughter. Isabella. She loved school, loved learning. Vincent's voice went soft. She'd be 12 now. I'm sorry for your loss. Loretta paused. And I'm sorry for being stubborn earlier. You're right. Kira needs me healthy. If you're serious about those doctors. I'm serious. Then okay. I'll go. And thank you. That night Vincent made plans. Doctor appointments. Better clothes for Kira and Loretta. Maybe he could help some of the other families too. The single dad needed job connections. The woman fleeing abuse needed legal help. The veteran needed medical care for PTSD. Vincent had resources. Money. Connections. Power. And for the first time in years he knew exactly how to use them. But he couldn't shake a growing worry in the back of his mind. Loretta was sick. Really sick. And if something happened to her, what would happen to Kira? Foster care? Separated from everything she knew? The thought made him cold. He was pulled from these thoughts by his phone ringing. Roberto, his assistant. Sir, you asked me to research children's education programs. I found several excellent private schools that offer scholarships. Hold that thought, Vincent said. First, I need you to find me the best family law attorney in the city. Someone who specializes in guardianship and foster care. Sir? Just in case, Vincent said. I need to make sure a little girl is protected. No matter what happens. 3 days later, Vincent took Loretta to see Dr. Patricia Reeves, the best endocrinologist at City Medical Center. Vincent had to convince Loretta to come, promising he'd wait in the car if she wanted privacy. But when they arrived, Loretta surprised him by asking him to come in with her. You're doing all this, she said. Might as well hear what the fancy doctor has to say. Dr. Reeves was a woman in her 50s with kind eyes and efficient hands. She ran tests, asked questions, examined Loretta thoroughly. Vincent sat quietly in the corner while Loretta answered honestly about her symptoms, her medication history, her struggles to afford treatment. Finally, Dr. Reeves sat back and folded her hands. Mrs. Williams, your diabetes is poorly controlled. Your A1C levels are dangerously high. You have early signs of neuropathy in your feet and possible kidney involvement. If we don't get this under control immediately, you're looking at serious complications. Possibly life-threatening. Loretta absorbed this without flinching, but Vincent saw her hand tremble slightly. What does she need? He asked. Consistent insulin therapy, a different type than what she's been getting from free clinics. Regular monitoring. Dietary changes. I'd like to see her weekly for the next month, then bi-weekly. We need to adjust her medications and make sure we're preventing any progression. Cost. With insurance, probably a few hundred a month. Without insurance. Dr. Reeves looked uncomfortable. Could be thousands. She doesn't have insurance, Loretta said quietly. Then we'll pay out of pocket, Vincent said immediately. Whatever it costs. Mr. Torres, that's too much. Your life isn't too much, Mrs. Williams. Vincent's voice was firm. Schedule whatever appointments she needs, doctor. I'll handle the payments. Dr. Reeves nodded. I'll have my staff set everything up. Mrs. Williams, I also want you to see a nutritionist and possibly a podiatrist to check that neuropathy. We're going to get you healthy again. In the parking garage after the appointment, Loretta stopped walking and put her hand on Vincent's arm. Why are you really doing all this? And don't tell me it's just because you're lonely or because of your daughter. There's something else. Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, when Isabella died, I wanted to die too. For months I thought about it. Ways I could end everything, stop the pain. The only thing that stopped me was knowing it would hurt my mother, my sister. So I kept breathing. Kept going to work. Kept pretending to be alive. But I wasn't. I was just a shell. And now I feel something again. Because of you and Kira. Because helping you gives me a reason to get up in the morning. Because watching Kira smile makes the world feel less empty. He met her eyes. You saved my life, Mrs. Williams. I'm just returning the favor. Loretta's eyes watered. She pulled him into a hug, this proud woman who didn't accept help easily, and Vincent hugged her back. You're a good man, she whispered. I'm trying to be. Over the next week, Vincent became a regular presence at Morrison Street Shelter. He brought groceries every other day. He helped fix things that broke, calling in repair people to handle bigger jobs. He spent evenings helping kids with homework. He got to know the other families, learned their stories, started connecting people with resources. The single dad, Thomas, got an interview at Vincent's company and was hired as a warehouse supervisor. The woman fleeing abuse, Jennifer, got connected with a legal aid attorney in safe housing. The veteran, Curtis, got medical care through a VA program Vincent helped him navigate. But mostly he spent time with Kira and Loretta. Taking Kira to school, picking her up, helping with homework. Taking Loretta to appointments, making sure she ate properly, checking her blood sugar. His employees noticed the change in him. Roberto commented that Mr. Torres seemed happier. His sister Camila called him suspicious. Who is she? Camila demanded. Who's who? The woman who has you smiling again. And don't lie to me, Vincent. I know you too well. Vincent laughed. There is no woman. But there is a little girl and her grandmother. And they're teaching me how to live again. He told Camila the whole story. About the bakery, the expired cake, the shelter, everything. By the end, Camila was crying. I want to meet them, she said. Really? Yes, really. If they're important to you, they're important to me. So Vincent arranged dinner at a nice but casual restaurant. He picked up Kira and Loretta from the shelter, both of them wearing new clothes he'd bought, after much protest from Loretta. Kira was nervous about meeting Vincent's family, but he promised her Camila was nice. And she was. Camila arrived with her husband Daniel and their 2 teenage sons. She took one look at Kira and Loretta and immediately gathered them into warm hugs like they were family already. It's so good to meet you both, Camila said. Vincent has told me so much. Dinner was loud and happy. Camila's sons taught Kira card tricks. Daniel and Loretta talked about old music. Camila pulled Vincent aside at one point and squeezed his hand. You look alive again, she said softly. Really alive. I feel alive. That little girl loves you. You know that, right? Vincent looked at Kira, who was laughing at something one of the boys said, her face bright with joy. I love her too. And Loretta? She's special. Tough and wise and so strong despite everything. Camila studied her brother's face. You've become a family, haven't you? I think maybe we have. After dinner, as Vincent drove Kira and Loretta back to the shelter, Kira fell asleep in the back seat, her head resting against the window. Loretta looked back at her and smiled. She hasn't slept that peacefully in months, Loretta said. She's always worried. About me, about where we'll go, about what's going to happen. But with you around, she feels safe. I want her to feel safe, Vincent said. I want both of you to. Can I ask you something? Loretta's voice was serious. If something happens to me, if my health gets worse, what happens to Kira? Vincent's hands tightened on the wheel. Nothing's going to happen to you. But if it does, she has no other family. My son, her father, was my only child. His wife's parents are dead. There's nobody else. She'd go into foster care, probably get separated from everything she knows. That's not going to happen. How can you be sure? Vincent took a deep breath. Because I've been talking to a lawyer about becoming her legal guardian. If you'll allow it. If something happens, or even if nothing happens, I want to make sure Kira is protected. That she has someone. Loretta was quiet for a long moment. You'd take on that responsibility? Raising a child? I'd be honored to. Even though she's not yours? She is mine, Vincent said softly. Maybe not by blood, but by choice. By love. That counts for something. Loretta wiped her eyes. You're a rare man, Vincent Torres. I'm just a man who was given a second chance. Thanks to a little girl asking for expired cake. 2 weeks later, disaster struck. The shelter got condemned. A city inspector found mold in the walls, faulty wiring that posed a fire hazard, and structural issues that made the building unsafe. Despite Vincent's recent donations, the problems ran too deep. The shelter needed to close immediately for extensive repairs. All residents had 30 days to find other housing. Barbara, the director, called an emergency meeting. 50 families crowded into the common area, fear and anger thick in the air. Where would they go? Other shelters were full. Waiting lists stretched for months. Winter was coming. Children would be on the streets. Vincent stood in the back, listening to families panic, his mind racing. He'd fixed the heat and bought coats, but he hadn't fixed the building itself. These problems had been growing for years. His money had been a band-aid on a broken bone. Kira found him after the meeting, tears streaming down her face. We have to leave? Where are we gonna go? I don't know, baby, Loretta said, looking older and frilier than Vincent had ever seen her. We'll figure something out. But they wouldn't. Vincent could see it in Loretta's eyes. There was no figuring it out. There was nowhere to go. That night, Vincent sat in his penthouse, staring at the city lights. He had 6,000 square feet of space. 5 bedrooms. His daughter's room hadn't been touched since the accident, preserved like a museum to grief. His wife's closet still held her clothes. He'd been living like a ghost in a mausoleum. And 3 miles away, a little girl and her grandmother had nowhere to sleep. The answer was obvious. Terrifying but obvious. At 6 in the morning, Vincent drove to the shelter. He found Loretta packing their few belongings into garbage bags, her movements slow and defeated. Mrs. Williams, I need to talk to you. She looked up, exhausted. If this is about money, Vincent, I can't accept any more. It's not about money. It's about a place to live. We'll find something. Come live with me. Loretta blinked. What? I have a house in the suburbs about 30 minutes from here. It's big, too big for one person. There's a guest cottage on the property, separate from the main house. 2 bedrooms, full kitchen, bathroom, private entrance. It's been sitting empty for years. You and Kira could live there. Vincent, we can't. Yes, you can. Please. The cottage is just gathering dust. You'd be doing me a favor, keeping it occupied. Vincent knew this argument would work better than charity. And it's close to a good school for Kira. There's a bus stop at the end of the street. Loretta, you need a stable place to live, especially with your health issues. And Kira needs a home, not a shelter. I can't pay rent. I'm not asking you to. I'm offering you a place to stay while you get back on your feet. However long that takes. Loretta sat down heavily on her cot. Why would you do this? Because I have space and you need space. Because Kira deserves better than garbage bags and uncertainty. Because... Vincent sat beside her. Because my house has been empty of life for 5 years. Because maybe having you there would make it feel like a home again. People will talk. Rich man, black woman and child. Let them talk. I don't care what people think. I care what Kira thinks. I don't want her getting confused about our situation, thinking we're charity cases. Then don't be charity cases. Help me around the property. The garden needs work. The cottage needs someone to make it feel lived in again. Make it an exchange if that's easier for your pride. Loretta's eyes flashed. My pride is all I've got sometimes. I know, and I respect that. But pride doesn't keep you warm at night. Pride doesn't give Kira a stable place to do her homework. Pride doesn't help you manage your diabetes. Vincent's voice gentled. Sometimes accepting help isn't weakness. Sometimes it's strength. Kira appeared from behind a privacy curtain, her eyes wide. She'd been listening. Can we really live in a cottage? Like in a fairy tale? It's not fancy, Vincent said quickly. It needs cleaning, probably some repairs. But yes, it's cottage-like. With a real bedroom? And a kitchen? And we don't have to share with 50 other people? That's right. Kira looked at her grandmother with pleading eyes. Please, Grandma. Please, can we go? I'm so tired of being here. I'm so tired of being scared all the time. And that did it. Loretta couldn't resist that plea. She pulled Kira close and closed her eyes. Okay, we'll try it. But just until we get on our feet, understand? This isn't permanent. However long you need, Vincent said, relief flooding through him. They moved the next day. Vincent's house was in a quiet suburban neighborhood with tree-lined streets and well-kept lawns. The main house was modern and elegant, all glass and clean lines. Behind it, connected by a stone path through a garden, sat the cottage. It was small but charming. White clapboard with blue shutters, a porch with a swing, flowers that had gone wild for lack of tending. Inside, dust covered everything but the bones were good. 2 bedrooms with real doors. A bathroom with a tub. A kitchen with appliances that worked. A living room with a fireplace. Kira ran from room to room, touching everything. This is ours? Really ours? Really yours, Vincent confirmed. Loretta stood in the middle of the living room, tears running down her face. I can't believe this is real. It's real. And tomorrow we'll clean it up and make it perfect. They spent the weekend transforming the cottage. Vincent called in cleaners, bought new furniture, stocked the kitchen with groceries. Camila came over with linens and towels and decorations. Her sons helped move furniture. Kira picked out paint colors for her room, soft yellow like sunshine. They painted together, Vincent and Kira and Loretta, getting more paint on themselves than the walls, laughing like a real family. On Sunday night, their first night truly settled in, Vincent made dinner for everyone in the main house. Pasta because Kira loved pasta. They ate together at his big dining table that hadn't seen a meal in years. Can I say grace? Kira asked. Everyone bowed their heads. Kira's voice was clear and sweet. Thank you, God, for this food. Thank you for Grandma being healthy. Thank you for Mr. Vincent and for him being our friend. Thank you for our cottage and for not being scared anymore. Amen. Amen, everyone echoed. After dinner, Vincent walked them back to the cottage. At the door, Loretta hugged him tight. Thank you, she whispered, for giving us our dignity back. Thank you for letting me help. For letting me be part of your lives. That night, Vincent lay in bed and smiled at the ceiling. The house felt different. Warmer, somehow. Lived in. Like a home instead of a mausoleum. Down the path in the cottage, Kira had her own bedroom with yellow walls. Loretta slept in a real bed for the first time in months. And both of them felt safe. Family, Vincent thought. They'd become a family. Winter came gently that year, with snow that turned the neighborhood into something from a postcard. Kira had never seen so much snow. She and Vincent built a snowman in the garden while Loretta watched from the cottage window, smiling. Higher, Kira directed as Vincent lifted her to place the carrot nose. He needs to be fancy. The fanciest snowman in the neighborhood, Vincent agreed. They gave him a top hat and scarf and named him Frederick. Kira insisted on taking pictures with her new camera, another gift from Vincent that Loretta had initially protested but eventually accepted. Life fell into a comfortable rhythm. Vincent drove Kira to school each morning. She attended Lincoln Elementary now, a good school with art programs and music classes and teachers who cared. She made friends quickly. She joined the art club and discovered she loved painting. Loretta's health stabilized with consistent medication and regular doctor visits. She put on weight, her skin glowed, her energy returned. She tended the garden, coaxing roses and vegetables back to life. She cooked meals that filled the property with delicious smells. Vincent returned to work but with new perspective. He left by 5 now instead of staying until midnight. He attended Kira's school events. He had dinner with his family every night, because that's what Loretta and Kira had become. His family. His employees noticed the change. Roberto commented that Mr. Torres smiled more, listened better, seemed more present. The company culture shifted. Vincent started programs for employee wellness, increased wages, added childcare benefits. He understood now what really mattered. You've changed, his CFO Margaret said during a meeting. In a good way. You seem happy. I am happy, Vincent realized. For the first time in years. At home, small moments became precious. Kira doing homework at the kitchen table while Vincent chopped vegetables for dinner. Loretta teaching them both to make her famous cornbread. Movie nights where they squished together on the couch, Kira in the middle, sharing popcorn. Vincent started therapy again, working through his grief over Isabella and his wife. Dr. Harrison helped him understand that loving Kira didn't diminish his love for his daughter. That his heart was big enough for both. You're allowed to be happy, Dr. Harrison said. Your wife would want you to be happy. I know. I just felt guilty for so long. And now I feel grateful. Like I was given a second chance. Camila visited often, bringing her boys to play with Kira. Loretta and Camila became friends, trading recipes and stories. Vincent watched his sister laugh with this woman who'd become so important to him, and something settled in his chest. One Saturday in February, Vincent took Kira to an art supply store. She needed paint for a school project but kept trying to pick the cheapest options. Get the good paint, Vincent said. The colors will be better. But it's so expensive. Kira, we've talked about this. You don't have to worry about money anymore. I've got it covered. She chewed her lip, that worried expression he was learning to recognize. But what if you change your mind? What if you get tired of us? Vincent crouched down to her level there in the middle of the art store. Listen to me. I'm never going to get tired of you. Never. You and your grandmother have given me back my life. Do you understand? I was barely surviving before I met you. Now I'm living again. Because of you. Really? Really truly? You're stuck with me now. I'm not going anywhere. Kira threw her arms around his neck. I love you, Mr. Vincent. Vincent's breath caught. Those words. He hadn't heard them in 5 years. Hadn't thought he'd hear them again. I love you too, sweetheart. So much. They bought the expensive paint and way more supplies than she needed. On the drive home, Kira said, Can I call you something else besides Mr. Vincent? Like what? I don't know. Mr. Vincent feels too formal. But you're not my dad, so I can't call you Daddy. She thought for a moment. Maybe just Vincent? Vincent works for me. Okay. Vincent. She tried it out, smiling. I like it. That night at dinner, Loretta served pot roast with vegetables from the garden. They sat together at the cottage table, passing dishes, talking about their days. Felt so normal. So right. I have something to discuss with both of you, Vincent said. I've been thinking about making our arrangement more official. Loretta set down her fork. What do you mean? I've spoken with my lawyer about guardianship papers. If something happens to you, Loretta, if your health gets worse or if there's an emergency, I want to make sure Kira is protected. That she doesn't go into the system. I'd like to become her legal guardian. With your permission, of course. Loretta was quiet for a long moment. You take her? Raise her? I already am raising her. This would just make it legal. Make sure she's protected no matter what. People would talk. Rich white man raising black child. I don't care what people say. I care about Kira being safe and loved. Kira looked between them, holding her breath. Finally, Loretta nodded slowly. Okay. Yes. I think that's smart. I think. Her voice cracked. I think that would give me peace. Knowing she'd be taken care of. She will be. I promise you. They signed papers the following week. Vincent Torres officially became Kira Williams's legal guardian, secondary to Loretta. If anything happened, Kira would stay with him. She wouldn't be alone. Kira didn't fully understand all the legal terms. But she understood that Vincent had promised to take care of her forever. That he wasn't going away. Spring came, bringing flowers and warmth. The garden exploded with color under Loretta's care. Kira turned 10 in April, and they threw a proper party. Not at a bakery this time, but at home in the garden. 20 kids from school came, plus Vincent's family. There was cake, real cake with 10 candles. There were games and presents and laughter. Kira stood in the middle of it all, wearing a new blue dress, surrounded by people who loved her, and she'd never been happier. Vincent watched her blow out the candles and make a wish. He caught Loretta's eye across the yard. She smiled at him, gratitude and affection clear in her expression. They'd saved each other, he realized. All three of them. Built something beautiful from broken pieces. This was family. Not by blood but by choice. By love. And it was enough. More than enough. It was everything. Summer brought long days and firefly nights. Kira spent hours in the garden with Loretta, learning to grow tomatoes and beans. Vincent taught her to ride the bicycle he'd bought for her birthday, running behind her with his hands on the seat until she found her balance and pedaled away, laughing. I'm doing it, she shouted. Look, I'm really doing it. Vincent stood in the driveway, his heart full, watching her circle back to him with the biggest smile on her face. These moments. These perfect, ordinary moments. This was what he'd been missing. What money could never buy. Loretta's health continued to improve. She gained back 20 pounds, her skin glowing with vitality. Dr. Reeves declared her diabetes well controlled for the first time in years. Loretta cried at that appointment, overwhelmed with relief. "You've given me my life back," she told Vincent on the drive home. "You've given me mine," he replied. That summer, Vincent's mother flew in from Arizona to visit. Teresa Torres was a force of nature at 75, sharp and opinionated and fiercely protective of her children. Vincent was nervous about her meeting Loretta and Kira, worried she might not understand his new family arrangement. His worries were unfounded. Teresa took one look at Kira and gathered her into a hug. "Aren't you precious? Vincent tells me you like art. I used to paint when I was young. Maybe we can paint together." They spent the week touring the city, visiting museums, eating at Teresa's favorite restaurants. At the art museum, Kira stood transfixed in front of a massive abstract painting. "What do you see?" Teresa asked. "Hope," Kira said softly. "All these colors mixed together, making something beautiful. That's what hope looks like." Teresa squeezed her shoulder. "You're a wise child." On Teresa's last night, after Kira had gone to bed, she sat with Vincent and Loretta on the cottage porch. Lightning bugs danced in the garden. The air smelled like roses. "You've built something special here," Teresa said. "A real family." "We have," Vincent agreed. Teresa turned to Loretta. "Thank you for taking care of my son. He was lost for so long. You and Kira brought him back to us." "He saved us first," Loretta said quietly. "Gave us a home when we had nothing. You give each other what you need. That's what family does." After Teresa left, life continued its comfortable rhythm. Vincent's company launched a new initiative, partnering with homeless shelters across the city to provide job training and placement services. He'd learned so much from Morrison Street, from seeing poverty up close. Now he wanted to use his resources to make real change. He hired Thomas, the single dad from the shelter, to run the program. Jennifer, the woman fleeing abuse, joined as a case manager after completing her degree. Curtis, the veteran, became a peer counselor helping other vets transition back to civilian life. The program was featured in the business news. Reporters wanted to interview Vincent about his philanthropic shift. He agreed but insisted on including the people the program helped. He wanted faces and stories, not just statistics. During one interview, the reporter asked, "What inspired this change in your approach to business?" Vincent thought about a rainy November night, a small girl asking for expired cake. "I learned that money is just a tool. It's what you do with it that matters. I was using it to build walls around my grief. Now I'm using it to build bridges to help people who need it. That's quite a transformation. I had good teachers. A 9-year-old girl and her grandmother who showed me what really matters in life." At home, Kira overheard the interview playing on television. "He talked about us," she said, awed. "He's proud of you," Loretta said. "We both are. We're at a turning point in this beautiful story. Can you feel it? Have you subscribed yet? Drop a comment and tell me what moment has touched your heart most so far. Don't miss what happens next." School started again in September. Kira entered 5th grade, her confidence growing daily. She joined the school art show with 3 paintings she'd created over the summer. Vincent and Loretta attended the opening night, beaming with pride. Kira's paintings showed the garden in different seasons. Spring blooms, summer abundance, fall colors. Each one was vibrant and full of life. "Your granddaughter has real talent," the art teacher said to Loretta. "She sees the world in a very special way." "She's been through a lot," Loretta said. "Art helps her process it all." "Well, whatever she's doing, keep encouraging it. She has a gift." Vincent bought all 3 paintings, insisting they should be professionally framed and hung in the main house. Kira protested that he didn't need to do that, but he was firm. "Art should be displayed and appreciated. These are beautiful and I want everyone who visits to see them." The paintings went up in the living room, transforming the space. Color and life where there had been only gray grief for so long. In October, Camila hosted a family dinner at her house. All the Torres gathered, Teresa visiting again, Vincent's cousins, aunts and uncles. Loretta and Kira came too, nervous about meeting so much family at once. But the Torres family welcomed them warmly. No questions about circumstances or arrangements, just acceptance and love. Kira played with Camila's sons and Vincent's young cousins. Loretta traded recipes with Teresa and helped cook dinner. During the meal, Vincent's uncle Carlos raised his glass. A toast to family. Not just blood but the people we choose to love. "Vincent, Loretta, Kira, we're honored to have you in our lives." "To family," everyone echoed. Kira leaned against Vincent's shoulder, her eyes shining. This was what she'd dreamed of in the shelter. Belonging. Being part of something bigger than just survival. Later, helping clean up, Vincent found Loretta in the kitchen drying dishes. You okay? He asked. More than okay. Your family is wonderful. They're your family too now. Loretta smiled. I'm starting to believe that. November arrived, bringing cooler weather and falling leaves. The anniversary of Vincent's daughter's death approached, a date that had always been unbearable. But this year felt different. Still sad, still a loss, but the grief had softened around the edges. On the day itself, Vincent took flowers to the cemetery where Isabella and her mother were buried. He knelt by the headstones and told them about Kira, about how a little girl had saved his life, about how he'd found purpose again. I'll always love you, he whispered. But I'm learning to live again. I hope that's okay. The wind rustled through leaves, warm despite the season. Vincent felt peace for the first time in years. His daughter would want him to be happy. Would want him to help people, to love again. He went home to find Kira and Loretta making dinner together, music playing, both of them dancing and laughing in the kitchen. They didn't see him at first, and he stood in the doorway watching this scene of domestic joy. This was his life now. Full and rich and beautiful. Kira spotted him and ran over, hugging him tight. You okay? I'm good, sweetheart. Really good. That night, they ate together as always, sharing stories from their days. Vincent felt Isabella's memory like a warm presence, not a haunting. She would have liked Kira, he thought. Would have liked having a little sister. Maybe in some way she'd sent Kira to him. Maybe this was all part of some bigger plan. Vincent didn't know. But he was grateful for every moment. As Kira's 11th birthday approached in November, Vincent started planning. He wanted something special, something that showed her how much she meant to him, how much her presence had transformed his life. He enlisted Loretta's help, the two of them conspiring in whispered conversations when Kira wasn't around. She's been talking about the bakery, Loretta mentioned. Where you first met. She drives past it sometimes when we're in the city and just stares at it. It's where everything changed, Vincent said. For all of us. An idea formed. Crazy, ambitious, perfect. Vincent made calls. He contacted Martinez Bakery and explained what he wanted to do. He reached out to Barbara from Morrison Street Shelter and the families he'd helped over the past year. He called Camila and his mother. He invited Kira's school friends and teachers. The guest list grew to over 50 people. Then Vincent did something bigger. He'd been thinking about it for months, buying the building that housed Martinez Bakery and converting it into a community center. A place that provided free meals, job training, childcare, and shelter assistance. A one-stop resource for families struggling like Loretta and Kira had struggled. He'd name it Second Chances. Because everyone deserved one. The paperwork took weeks to finalize. Vincent worked with city officials, nonprofit organizers, and community leaders. The bakery would remain, but the upper floors would transform into program spaces. He kept it all secret from Kira and Loretta. November 7th arrived crisp and clear. Vincent told Kira they were just going out for a birthday lunch, nothing fancy. She wore jeans and a green sweater, her hair in neat braids. Loretta dressed up in a maroon dress that Vincent had bought for her, claiming his mother had sent it and it was the wrong size. The lie was obvious, but Loretta accepted the gift gracefully. They drove into the city, Vincent barely able to contain his excitement. Kira chattered about her birthday wishes, simple things. A new set of paints. Maybe a book about famous artists. Time in the garden with Grandma. Those all sound doable, Vincent said, smiling. He pulled up in front of Martinez Bakery. The windows were covered with paper hiding what was inside. Why are we here? Kira asked. You'll see. Vincent opened the door and ushered them inside. Surprise. 50 voices shouted at once. The entire bakery was transformed with streamers and balloons. A massive banner read, Happy 11th Birthday, Kira. Tables overflowed with food. A 3-tier cake sat in the center, decorated with edible flowers that matched the cake from 2 years ago. Kira's mouth fell open. Her school friends were there, jumping and waving. Camila's family. Vincent's mother. Barbara and families from the shelter. Thomas and Jennifer and Curtis and everyone Vincent had helped. The art teacher. Even the baker who'd initially refused Kira, looking ashamed and apologetic. What? How? Kira couldn't find words. Happy birthday, sweetheart, Vincent said, kissing the top of her head. Tears streamed down Kira's face as friends surrounded her with hugs. The party was loud and joyful and perfect. Kids played games while adults caught up, everyone celebrating this one special girl who'd touched so many lives. After cake was served, after presents were opened, after the chaos settled a bit, Vincent called for attention. Everyone, thank you for coming to celebrate Kira's birthday. As many of you know, this bakery is where I met Kira 2 years ago. She was asking for expired cake, just wanting something small for her birthday. That moment changed my life completely. Kira stood beside him, holding Loretta's hand, listening. Since then, Kira and her grandmother Loretta have become my family. They've taught me about resilience, about hope, about what really matters in life. They saved me from drowning in grief. And I wanted to do something to honor that. Vincent pulled out a folder and handed it to Loretta. This building now belongs to a non-profit I've established. The bakery will stay, but the upper floors are being converted into a community resource center. Free meals, job training, childcare, shelter assistance. Everything people need to get back on their feet. Loretta opened the folder, scanning the documents. Her hand flew to her mouth. It's called Second Chances Community Center, Vincent continued. And Loretta, I'd like you to run it. As the director. Full salary, benefits, everything. If you're interested. Are you serious? Loretta's voice shook. Completely serious. You understand what families need because you've lived it. You have wisdom and compassion and strength. You'd be perfect. I'd be honored, Loretta whispered, tears flowing freely now. So honored. The crowd erupted in applause. But Vincent wasn't done. He turned to Kira, getting down on one knee so they were eye level. From his pocket, he pulled a small velvet box. Kira, over the past 2 years, you've become the daughter of my heart. Not by blood but by choice. By love. And I'd like to make that official if you and your grandmother agree. I'd like to adopt you. Fully and legally. Make you a Taurus. Make our family permanent. Kira's eyes went huge. You mean, I'd be your daughter? For real? For real. If you want that. If I want that? Kira's voice rose to a squeak. Of course I want that. Yes. Yes, please. She launched herself at Vincent, hugging him so tight he could barely breathe. The room exploded in cheers and applause. Loretta was openly sobbing now, happy tears streaming down her face. Vincent held Kira close, his own eyes wet. I love you so much, sweetheart. I love you too, Dad. Dad. The words settled into his heart like coming home. He opened the velvet box. Inside was a delicate necklace with a pendant, a small heart engraved with the words, "Family is forever." This is my promise to you, Vincent said, clasping it around her neck. Forever family. Nothing will ever change that. Kira touched the pendant, fresh tears falling. This is the best birthday ever. It's the best day ever for me too. The party continued for hours. People ate and laughed and celebrated not just a birthday but the creation of something beautiful. A family built on love instead of obligation. A community coming together to support each other. As the sun set, Vincent stood with Loretta and Kira outside the bakery, now the future Second Chances Community Center. The three of them looked at the building that had brought them together. 2 years ago, I was barely surviving, Vincent said quietly. Now I'm living. Really living. Because of you too. We needed you just as much, Loretta said. You gave us hope when we had nothing. We saved each other, Kira said simply. Yes, Vincent thought. That's exactly what they'd done. The adoption papers were filed the following week. In 6 months, after court approval, Kira Williams would become Kira Williams Torres. Vincent's legal daughter in every way. But really, she'd been his daughter from that first moment in the bakery. When he'd heard her ask for expired cake and felt his frozen heart crack open. Love didn't follow bloodlines. It followed choice. And he'd chosen this. Chosen them. Forever. 1 year later, November 7th arrived again. Kira's 12th birthday. But this time they weren't celebrating in secret or scrambling to survive. They were standing in front of Second Chances Community Center for its grand opening. The transformation was stunning. The bakery occupied the ground floor, still making beautiful cakes but now also providing free breakfast and lunch for anyone who needed it. The second floor housed a job training center with computers and interview prep resources. The third floor had childcare facilities and after-school programs. The fourth floor offered temporary shelter beds for families in crisis. It was everything Vincent had dreamed of. Everything Loretta and Kira's experience had taught him was necessary. Over 100 people gathered for the ribbon-cutting ceremony. Local news crews set up cameras. City officials gave speeches. But Vincent made sure the real stars were the people the center would serve. Thomas spoke about finding employment through Vincent's programs and finally getting his own apartment. Jennifer talked about escaping abuse and rebuilding her life safely. Curtis described getting help with PTSD and reconnecting with his children. Their stories brought tears to many eyes. Then it was Loretta's turn. She stood at the microphone, elegant in a navy blue dress, looking healthy and strong and proud. 2 years ago my granddaughter and I were living in a shelter. We'd lost everything. Her parents. Our home. Our hope. We were just trying to survive day by day. And on her 9th birthday, all Kira wanted was a piece of expired cake. Loretta's voice caught. Such a small wish. But someone heard her. Vincent Torres heard her and decided to help. Not just with cake but with everything. He gave us a home, medical care, stability. He gave us family. She looked at Vincent standing beside Kira. But what Vincent doesn't always understand is how much he needed us too. He was lost in his own grief, barely living. And somehow, through helping us, he found his way back to life. We saved each other. That's what family does. Applause rippled through the crowd. Loretta continued, this center represents that same philosophy. We save each other. We help each other. Nobody should have to beg for expired cake. Nobody should have to choose between medicine and food. Nobody should have to sleep on the streets. Second Chances is here to make sure they don't have to. Everyone deserves dignity. Everyone deserves hope. Everyone deserves a second chance. More applause, louder now. Vincent stepped up, Kira at his side holding the giant ceremonial scissors. Thank you all for coming. I'm not going to make a long speech because Loretta said it perfectly. I'll just add this, 2 years ago I thought I knew what success looked like. Money, power, business growth. But I was wrong. Success looks like this. He gestured at the center. Like helping people. Like building community. Like love. He put his arm around Kira. My daughter taught me that. By simply asking for cake on her birthday, she changed my entire life. She showed me what really matters. And now we're paying that forward. Kira stepped forward, her voice clear and strong. When I was 9, I thought nobody cared about kids like me. Poor kids. Homeless kids. Kids whose parents were gone. I thought we didn't matter. But Vincent showed me I was wrong. We all matter. Every single person deserves love and help and hope. And this center is going to give that to people. She lifted the scissors. I'm proud to open Second Chances, where everyone gets another shot at happiness. She cut the ribbon and the crowd erupted in cheers. The doors opened and people flooded inside. Families exploring the facilities. Kids running to the childcare area. Adults signing up for job training. The bakery serving free birthday cake to everyone because it was Kira's birthday and she wanted to share. Vincent stood back watching it all, overwhelmed with emotion. Camila appeared at his elbow. You did it, little brother. You actually did it. We did it. All of us together. His mother joined them, leaning on her cane. Your father would be so proud. This is his legacy continued. Using success to help others. I wish he could see this. He can, Teresa said firmly. And Isabella too. They're both proud of you. Vincent thought about his daughter, gone for 7 years now. She'd be 14 if she'd lived. A teenager. Would she have liked Kira? He liked to think they'd be close, sisters in spirit if not blood. Dad. Kira called from across the room. Come see the art space. They set it up just like you planned. Dad. He'd never get tired of hearing that. He excused himself and crossed to where Kira stood in a bright room filled with art supplies. Everything a young artist could want. Canvases, paints, sketch pads, colored pencils. Light poured through big windows. This is amazing, Kira breathed. Kids are going to love this. You're going to love it too. I thought you could volunteer here teaching younger kids. If you want. Her eyes lit up. Really? I could do that. You're a talented artist. You should share that gift. Kira hugged him tight. Thank you for everything. For the center, for adopting me, for being my dad. For seeing me that day in the bakery. Vincent held her close, his heart full to bursting. Thank you for asking for expired cake. For being brave. For changing my whole life. They stood there in the art room, surrounded by possibility and color and hope. Outside, the community gathered to celebrate this new resource. Loretta directed staff and welcomed families. Camila organized food distribution. Teresa held babies in the childcare area. Everyone working together. Saving each other. That night, after the crowds left and the center closed, Vincent drove Kira and Loretta home. The cottage lights glowed warm in the darkness. The main house stood solid and welcoming behind it. Inside the cottage they had a private birthday celebration. Just the three of them. Cake and ice cream and laughter. Presents wrapped carefully. Stories shared about the day. Make a wish, Loretta said as Kira prepared to blow out 12 candles. Kira closed her eyes. But before blowing them out she said, I don't need to wish for anything. I already have everything I want. Blow them out anyway, Vincent said. Wish for the future. She did, sending smoke curling toward the ceiling. Later, after Kira went to bed, Vincent and Loretta sat on the cottage porch. Stars blazed overhead. The garden slept, waiting for spring. Can you believe it's been 2 years? Loretta asked. Sometimes it feels like forever. Sometimes it feels like yesterday. Everything's changed. Everything, Vincent agreed. I had a whole life I thought mattered. Business, success, status. None of it meant anything until I found you too. You found purpose. I found family. Loretta took his hand. You're a good man, Vincent Torres. The world needs more people like you. The world needs more people like you. Running that center, helping those families. You're making real change. We're making real change. Together. They sat in comfortable silence, two people who'd saved each other, who'd built something beautiful from broken pieces. Inside the cottage, Kira slept peacefully in her yellow bedroom. No more nightmares about losing everything. No more fear about the future. She was safe. She was loved. She was home. The next morning, Vincent woke early and walked out to the garden. Frost kissed the last roses. The air smelled clean and cold. He stood where he'd stood 2 years ago, looking at the cottage where a little girl and her grandmother had found refuge. Where he'd found purpose again. He thought about that moment in the bakery. A split-second decision to help. To care. To see someone else's pain and do something about it. That one choice had changed 3 lives completely. Changed dozens of lives through the community center. Changed his company culture and his family dynamics. One moment. One choice. Everything different because he'd decided to act instead of looking away. Whatcha thinking about? Kira appeared beside him, wrapped in a warm coat, her breath fogging in the cold air. About how lucky I am. I'm the lucky one. You saved me and Grandma. You saved me first, sweetheart. Don't ever forget that. They stood together watching the sun rise over the garden, painting everything gold and pink and beautiful. A new day. A new year ahead. Kira slipped her hand into his. Dad. Yeah. Thank you for not walking past that day. Thank you for stopping and listening. Vincent squeezed her hand. Thank you for being brave enough to ask for what you needed. For giving me a reason to be better. I love you. I love you too. Forever and always. Inside the cottage, Loretta started making breakfast. The smell of bacon and coffee drifted through the morning air. In a few hours, they'd go to second chances and continue the work of helping families. But for now, in this perfect moment, they were simply a father and daughter watching the sunrise together. A family built on kindness, hope, and love. Exactly as it should be.